Konnichiwa. Here I am again. Today we're going to do flowers. And I want to tell you why. Because when I walk around in Japan, and that's pretty much during COVID time is what we can do. But every time I have visited Japan, I love to take pictures of the flowers and also the beauty of landscape. But I have created a whole album of my flower pictures. So that's what we're going to concentrate on today. And I really want to talk to you about doing a contour line drawing of a flower, a simple flower, to get you started in learning to use contour line. So I've got my materials. I have my pencil and my eraser, and I'm going to use watercolor paper this time to begin to do my sketch, because I really think I will keep the watercolor. We will advance to canvas, but not so fast this time. Okay, I'm going to choose a very simple flower, a beautiful, beautiful flower. And I'm gonna work on following the line, okay? So I'm gonna start out. Now we're doing a contour line of the flower. I have to keep my eye on the flower as I work around looking at the petals, and you do this rather quickly because you really just want to get the flower in place so you can then go back and redefine it. And if you do that, if you keep your eye on it and let the petals just guide you as you keep your eye on them. Now this maybe doesn't look like this right now, but here is my opportunity now to go back in and to bring those petals into the center. It's just a really good opportunity for you to really look at what you're drawing. Don't make it up. This is drawing from life. The last time we were together, we were drawing a cartoon. Now we're trying to draw a flower that really looks like a flower. Okay, so I'm bringing these lines in to show the petals, and some are doubling up, some are laying on top of others, but I'm trying to bring them into the center. And I'm watching my drawing or my photograph. I'm looking at my photograph. Now, if I were outside doing this, it would be considered plein air because I'd be actually there. But this is, okay, so I've got something pretty good right now, but I'm gonna go now in to show the little center. Remember, if you're doing this as a watercolor, you need to keep your pencil line nice and light because you're gonna go back over it with your watercolor. And then you know how I love line. I will probably wanna put some line in it. Okay, so here we have a very rough draft of a flower drawing. So now we see my rough sketch. It's very rough, but now I'm going to choose my palette. And remember, we have talked about how when you do a preliminary, then you have to decide what are your colors. Now the flower that I'm looking at is red, very deep red. And I think I'm gonna go with that because I love the way it looks. It's also got some flowers in the background, which will give it some depth when I get ready to go to the canvas. So remember, you've got to have your water, you've got to have your paper towels. So I'm going to start with a wash. You know how we talked about that. You don't start, especially even in watercolor, you're still going to start with a really soft brush, and you're going to drop in some color very gently onto the paper. And we're using watercolor paper now. Last time we were just using. Okay, so now we're putting our color in. You know how I love that. But we're doing it very gently with a soft watercolor brush. And this is watercolor paper, so it's a little toothier, and it'll grab the color a little better than the white bond that we were using in our last exercise. Okay, so I'm getting all the color in. I do love this color. It's beautiful, isn't it? And you see how gently I'm touching the paper? The beautiful red color is popping into my flower. Now I can layer this, but remember, just like we have done before, this is really our preliminary to get ready to move to the canvas. I actually love watercolor. I'm not excellent at it, but I do love to try and work watercolor whenever I have a chance. Okay, this is so pretty. I'm probably going to have to keep this. Just love the way it flows. So when we get this all done, the next step will be to move to our canvas. So now looking at my picture, and I've got my petals preliminarily put in, now I'm going to put in some of the other colors that I see. So you have to keep your eye on your subject. Okay, and I see these little dots all around. I'm going to dry my brush a little bit, and I'm going to try to put in these little dotty looks where the center of the flower is over the petals. Okay, so now that I have this in here, and maybe I'll pick up a little bit darker to put that, make that center stand out a little bit more. So this is a pretty simple palette. I've really got pretty much yellow and red, but when I go to the canvas, I can enrich that color. So there we have it. Now we have our flower. So my next step, remember, we're going to move to the canvas. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to get my canvas, and it's going to be a lot smaller than we did before, but for one single flower, this will be fine. And I'm getting my palette out, meaning that this is where I'll lay my paint, and I'm going to use different brushes. I can't use these soft hair brushes anymore because I'm moving to the canvas. So I'm going to set them aside, and I'm going to get out those beautiful acrylic brushes that I love to use. These are such lovely brushes, and as you begin to paint and explore, you're going to find the brushes that will work best for you. I do need to do a very simple sketch, again, looking at my flower. Simple sketch, again, remember, following the contour lines. I'm on the smaller canvas, and I'm going to actually bring these petals off the edge of the canvas. I really kind of want to be a little bit more abstract in doing this, meaning that I want it to look a little more bold than I did with my watercolor. So I'm going to bring these petals, and I'm still trying to keep that contour line. So going around, very simple, because I still want to put my background color in. Okay, so I have that. Now, remember, I like to create a transparent background to lay my flower into. So I'm gonna choose, let's see, I want a lovely light color. So I think I'm gonna do green again. I really like green. Okay, so I'm gonna put out some blue and some yellow. And what does blue and yellow make when it comes together? Absolutely, it will give us a pretty green. And I want to do it as a transparency. So a lot of water in acrylic acts very much like watercolor. Now that's kind of pretty. I like the way these two colors are coming together. And I'm going to kind of stay away from my contour line. Just put that in like that. Okay, I kind of like that. Okay, that's kind of looking good. I love that pretty blue. But again, this is a transparent background. So we want it to just be a blush color behind this beautiful flower that we're going to do next. Okay. What do you think, Charlie? Do you think I'm doing okay? I see that the color that I'm painting this flower is very similar to the little kimono you're wearing. You like it so far? Thank you. The next color is the flower itself, the red, that beautiful red. So I'm going to be looking for that, and I've got a little bit out on my palette already. Okay, so here we are. Now it's time for me to put some color in that flower. Now I'm using a great big brush. Sometimes you can, even on a small canvas, because I want the paint to flow a little bit more like watercolor, because it is a wash until I start really putting in those other brighter colors. This color is not exactly as bright as I want it to be, so I'm going to have to lighten it up, and I'll do that as I paint. Remember what I told you, painting is sort of like experimenting, and you need to have confidence that you can lay out that paint and suddenly it'll take shape and it'll look beautiful. But remember, you do have your preliminary sketch underneath, and I can see it. I like the shape I'm coming up with. It's a little different from my original, but I built my confidence by doing my preliminary watercolor. And that's what we need to do in art. We need to just keep working at things and feeling confident this is what we want. Then we'll be very happy with the results. Okay, so I'm going to switch brushes now. I'm going to pick up some of that yellow. Liam, I am painting flowers, you know, because of you, because you love them so much. Can you see that? What do you think, baby? Think that's going to turn out well? And we can put it in your room? Okay, so I'm going back to my paint now. I'm going to lay in the yellow for the center, and I'm going to use that pressure lift technique that I told all of you about. And that means you put the brush down into the paint and you put it on the canvas. Pressure lift, pressure lift, pressure lift. That's what you do to create that interior and give it a little texture. Okay, so we've got that going, and I'm kind of wanting a little richer color in the flower. So I'm gonna let that brush go. I'm gonna dry this brush really good, and I'm gonna pick up this richer red. Can you see it? Can you see it? And I'll show it to you in a minute, Liam. Okay? I want you to see how pretty this prettier red is. A little brighter, but I like the background of the other color. So see, there's so much fun in color. So many things you can do with color. Okay, what do you think so far? You see how it's getting a little richer? Do you see that? Yeah? Well, if it turns out well, I'd like for it to go in your room, because you know you love flowers so much. That's one thing we've discovered about you, is that you really love flowers. Okay, so you can see my brush is still working the color, and you see how I'm stroking? I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm stroking. I'm stroking. And it's just turning out beautifully. I'm excited about this painting, and I want all of you who are trying this at home to be excited about your painting. Okay, so far it looks pretty good. Yeah, and this is really kind of wet into wet. I'm not letting the layers dry. I want to look at my picture again and make sure I'm staying on it. Okay, I see some shadows now. I'm thinking I'd better pull out some other colors, give a little shadow to these petals. Okay, looking good. Liam, before I go to the next part, I want you to look at it one more time. Do you like it? Is it good? Is it good? I'm so glad you like it. We'll put it in your room for sure. Okay, now I'm seeing some shadows in this flower, and I want to pull them into my painting, but I don't want to overwhelm it. I'm not going to use black. I'm actually going to use blue because I like blue for a good shadow. And I'm looking at the picture, and that's something you need to do. You need to kind of, as much as you can, keep your eye on your subject. And the subject is this beautiful red flower. Okay, so I'm going to take this edge brush very carefully right there. See, I'm pulling that shadow in right there. I don't want to take away from my red though, so I may have to go back and put in my red again to make it strong. But this is what painting is. It's kind of a back and forth thing. That's what I told you before. Acrylics are very forgiving. If I decided I didn't like this at all, I could just wipe it out and start over again. Okay, kind of like that. Can you see the shadows that I'm casting? Okay, now I'm going to bring this in. I want to show you what I'm going to do here. See how I'm bringing that yellow? I want that yellow to kind of pop. I don't want it to be like big blobs. I want it to be little lines. Okay, can you see that? Let me ask Liam. Liam, so far I've tried to, make it as realistic as possible. Do you like it? Is this pretty? Yeah, you want this for your room when you move to a bit and have your own room? Okay. I'm so glad you like it. I'm so glad you like it. Charlie dear is usually my one who tells me, but you are really my critic. Today you're my real critic. You like it? Yeah. See, a lot of the colors that I put in your lion over here are in this flower. Okay, so I'm wanting to put in some more of my rich red tones. You see how you can kind of bring it back? You see right there, I put that shadow in. So I'm going to bring that red right up to the edge of that shadow. I still have to use a little bit of water, but mostly at this point you want to start really building up your color. So I'm doing that. And I really like the way that yellow popped in there. You see that? Okay. I'm going to put a few more touches of that brighter red. Get that in there. Okay. Now I want you to be bold. Please be bold with your paint. Now I want you to work hard at it, and I want you to think before you put your brush on your canvas, but I don't want you to be afraid of it. And, painting is joyful, and I want you to feel joy when you're doing this. That's why it's so much fun to have Liam helping me out and looking at it, and of course Charlie dear, I always depend on him. But we want to paint with our heart. Okay, so this is brush is called a bright. It has shorter bristles than the other one. And now I'm gonna take this, I found this lovely little stiff brush here because I want to put that yellow stronger in the center. You see, remember the pressure lift, pressure lift, pressure lift. Getting that yellow going on in there. So it's really bright against that red. Okay, can you see it? But I still like that idea of those little rays of yellow popping over the petals. That's just so beautiful. So pretty. I say all the time, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And you know what that really means? That means if your mom and dad look at this and they say how much they love it and they want to put it in the house where they can look at it, it doesn't matter if the great masters of painting of the universe aren't so happy with it, because you're doing something that makes you happy and your parents love it. Yeah, I like that. I like that very much. Okay, now I still want some shadows. So I'm going to use this brush and wash it, get it all clean. And I'm seeing some strong Sorry, I dropped my brush. Sometimes you drop your brush. Okay, I'm seeing some strong shadows, and I really want to put those strong shadows in. Okay. I like that. I have now completed the painting, and I'm satisfied with it, and I want you to see that I've left my shadows in, and I have brightened up the color, and I put some detail right here in the center. And you know what? I'm not going to use the pen on this because I like it just the way it is, and I want you to feel good about that when you're doing your painting. I have worked a little bit more on the watercolor, and I'm enjoying that. And I have done what's called mixed media on that. So I'm using acrylic watered down, I'm using pure watercolor, I'm using oil pastels, and I'm kind of liking and enjoying that. So don't forget your beautiful sketch, okay? That's important. Now the last thing that I need to do, and Charlie is so good to remind me, is that I need to sign my painting. So I'm going to take the painting off the easel, I'm going to lay it down. Oh, this is the other thing I wanted you to see. When we started this painting, it was vertical. And then I looked at it after it was completed, and I liked the way it looked horizontally. So I've decided this is the way I'm going to leave it. So I'm going to turn it over now. Thank you, Charlie, for always, always reminding me to sign my work. And I'm going to sign it. And because Liam loves flowers, I'm hoping that he will want this in his room. Thank you so much for listening, and especially my students, I really want you to keep listening and to keep paying attention to everything around you. Liam and I are sitting here in our studio in Japan, and I want my students especially to be aware of how much we send our love, and I want you to please keep watching. So long for now.